What is going on, my random rimrockers? It is time for a story. A story that no one really knows about besides the people who were involved with the incident. I just recently remembered this story again and I thought, it's a stupid story. Maybe there's a lesson or two to be learned about this. I don't know. About a decade ago, I was around 10 years old, maybe younger, maybe slightly older, I don't remember. But an important note about me is that growing up, I was extremely naive. I pretty much plugged my ears to whatever that I wasn't interested in, and I was extremely geeky and nerdy about everything else that I'm interested in. And I was just living in this tiny, stupid bubble of mine and not really aware of anything else that's around me. Basically, the takeaway is I was this stupid, naive little child. Even though I was like 10 or 11, 12, 13 years old, I still was behaving like a child. But anyway, I was texting my cousin who I wasn't very close with. We live apart from each other, so we don't really talk much besides online. We were texting on Messenger and don't quite remember exactly what the topic was, but eventually my cousin brought up the fact that my big brother has been making friends with this Indian boy around my neighborhood. I don't know what point he was trying to make, but he was just like, hey, do you know your big brother has been hanging out with this nigga recently? And pardon my language, alright, sorry about this. I hate to use the N-word, but I don't want it to take away from the storytelling, so bear with me here. Now, back then, my vocabulary was dog water. In fact, I'm not very good at language either right now, but the N-word was not a registered vocabulary in my brain bank, so I just innocently asked, what's a nigga? And so he just casually replied to me, nigga means black person. And so me, my stupid ass brain took that as face value and was like, oh shit, a new vocabulary unlocked. Now I can finally address people with a higher level, higher standard. I'm just gonna call all black people niggas now. I thought I was so smart, bro. I just unlocked a new vocabulary and probably can start using it in my English essays to address black people and score higher grades. I thought I was freaking genius. Of course, my cousin didn't really understand that I was this naive, and so I just responded with an, oh, okay. And just at the back of my mind, I was like, okay, new vocabulary unlocked. I'm just gonna start using it for black people now. And so fast forward a couple months later, I eventually got to meet this Indian guy that my big brother has been making friends with. On this particular day, my big brother had brought his Indian friend to our house, but he wasn't like visiting our house or anything. They were just like cycling around the neighborhood and passing by, and I was just so happened to be there. And so my big brother was like, yo, this is his name, say hi. And of course, I recalled a couple months ago that my cousin had taught me this new word, the N-word. A much more advanced word that I can start addressing black people with. And I deliberately ignored, and I didn't even call him by his name. Despite the fact that my big brother told me his friend's name, I still decided to address him with the N-word, and I literally just said right in front of his face, oh, hey nigga. I legitimately just said that in front of his face with full confidence and zero shame, probably with my chest puffed up and my arms crossed, thinking I just nailed the greeting. And I remember so vividly that he just responded with a sad, oh, as looking at the ground. And then my big brother was just standing at the side just like, what? And I didn't even understand why they reacted the way they did back then. Like, oh brother, if that Indian guy just straight up left the scene and just left up to me and my big brother alone in front of my house, he would have probably just beaten the shit out of my ass. Back in my childhood days, my big brother and I didn't get along very well. Like, my big brother didn't like me very much for pretty understandable and obvious reasons. So I'm pretty lucky that it didn't go down that way. I don't remember exactly what happened next. I think they just went about their day and left the scene. And I was just standing in front of my house just thinking like, oh, I did a good job. Finally got to use this new word I learned. And only realizing my mistake many, many years later when I finally started socializing more. So yeah, quite a story, quite a stupid interaction. Anyway, that's all I have for you. See you next time.